morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this 20th day of February 2024. And I have in studio Eden Kenan, who is the Member of Parliament for Eldas constituency. Good morning, Mheshimiwa. Good morning, viewers. I have Godfrey Sotsi, the Senator of Vihiga County. Good morning. Good morning. Then I have Titus Lote, Member of Parliament, Kachiliba constituency in West Pokot County. Good morning. Good morning, Sam. And I have David Ocheng, Member of Parliament for Ugenya constituency. Good morning.
Morning, Sam. How have you been?
I am well. You've been so lost. What's been going on?
No, we're fine. We're on recess. Go break.
No, you're not on recess. You came back last week.
Yeah, we just resumed. Yeah, it's 5 days now.
Lakini karibu sana, and it's good to have you back. And this morning, the two dailies. Let me start with the Daily Nation. Death traps in schools is the main story. And then they're saying that families of these children who died in schools under unclear circumstances are demanding answers. The children are Joy Kahanya, Tumutumu Girls High School in Nyeri, Liam Kipruto, Goodrich International Schools in Machakos. We have Emmanuel Kirimi, Kilungu Boys Secondary School in Makueni County, Angelina Njoki, Lily Academy in Nairobi. Then there is Brian Gori Riokindo Secondary School in Kisii County, and they are talking about the safety standards manual that may not be being respected. Classrooms should accommodate a maximum of 40 learners is one of the requirements. Then they're saying the sharing of beds is prohibited, hence admissions linked to bed capacity. There is in dormitories, the space between the beds should be at least 1.2 meters. Looks like it's not being respected. Corridors should not be less than 2 meters. All doors should be at least 5 feet wide. Each dormitory should have a door at both ends and at least 4 pit latrines for every 30 learners. And so much more. Ruto wants total loyalty from Kenya Kwanza MPs. President Ruto, his Deputy Rigathi Gachagua and Cabinet Secretaries during the National Executive Retreat and Parliamentary Group Consultative Meeting at Lake Naivasha Resort yesterday is the image that you see there. And the President has reprimanded Kenya Kwanza legislators who are opposing government policies, including levies to fund housing and health care projects, as Parliament considers the Affordable Housing Bill 2023 that the government is banking on to continue collecting a controversial levy. The President insisted MPs from the governing coalition must ensure passage of the proposed law. And you see more coverage in the subsequent stories, pages 4 and 5. On page 5, President warns MPs over disloyalty. Ruto says rebels could be placing their heads on the political chopping block ahead of the 2027 polls. And he's quoted as saying that we all campaigned on the same platform. You heard me talk about housing and UHC. When it comes to implementation, some start the complaints. So that's a bit of the coverage of what's going on. The vacancies were advertised. This is speaking to the 2,500 opportunities for nurses to go outside the country. The vacancies were advertised in the dailies. Don't you read them? I have talked about this thing in every meeting. When you're seated in those meetings, aren't you supposed to find out where these vacancies are? That's what Dr. Ruto was asking the members of Parliament. Now, I have 3 of those that I got an opportunity to attend the retreat in Naivasha. Is it the consultative meeting with the parliamentary group? So, David Ocheng, what was the mood of the President?
Mood? Yes, fine. Evident, I can say. Confident, bullish. Correct.
But if you look at the statements that are attributed to him, and I saw a few clips of him complaining about members of Parliament who, for lack of a better word, may be clueless about some of the things that he has been talking about. What was going on? Why was he frustrated?
I think, Sam, this was a whole day's engagement. And so what I'm seeing on the papers, probably, I'm wondering which PG this was, because basically those are snippets that, in my opinion, are taken out of context. It was a discussion about the general performance of the Kenya government, Kenya Kwanza government so far. Some of the areas where we think there have been successes, and areas where we think we've had, slow pickup of what's supposed to be done. And of course, as members of parliament, we had our own concerns of how things are happening. And, you know, people raised, I mean, it is not a church where, you know, the priest comes and says, this is what the word says of the Lord, and everyone goes home. No, it's a political engagement where, you know, everyone had a chance to say whatever they think is happening, where the positive things are, people say so, where people think the areas where we make improvements, people say so. And so in this, for example, in this context, the discussion was much about the jobs being created. What was being discussed was about the nurses, for example, going to Saudi Arabia, the jobs that have been negotiated abroad. And the president was saying this, that if you belong to Kenya Kwanza, leave alone the rest of the country, belong to Kenya Kwanza, and everywhere I go, I talk about the jobs I've negotiated abroad. Do you want me to come to your office, now tell you, David Ochieng, I've negotiated these jobs in this country, now take your people? So he was just telling members of parliament on how to be proactive, ensure that if there's any opportunities that arise about, for example, jobs, projects to be done in your constituency, things to be done generally, you, as member of parliament, should be the first person to know what needs to be done. For example, he asked us a question that how many of you know where the offices of the National Employment Authority is? And it will shock you. A couple of members didn't know where that office is. Okay?
How come?
That is the issue. And so I don't think that should be taken out of context and to be said that, you know...
But also, even if you know where the offices are, so what do you do with that information?
That was the point I was making, that then you would know, for example, that jobs that are going, for example, to Saudi Arabia require this following things so that you're able to advise your constituents who may want these opportunities accordingly. I was asking who knows where the office of the Minister for Labour is or PS for Labour is. So that if you've had that the opportunities, jobs in Germany or in the US, if you don't know where the offices are and what the requirements are, how are you going to ensure that your constituents get these jobs? He's talking about these digital jobs that we're supposed to anchor in our constituencies in what you call in the digital labs at every ward level. And he's saying that if you're not going to do these things to your constituents, how are you going to win elections in the future and how are you going to serve your people? So this is a challenge that he made to us and say that, you know, as a long-serving politician, having been a member of parliament, he says that you go out of your way. There's no way you're going to lead collectively. Every MP has a constituency that he runs, that he represents. And people should not wait. He goes around talking about jobs created, and people wait until a PG happens when they ask him, oh, where are these jobs? That was the idea. Members of parliament, whether opposition or Kenya Kwanza, must be proactive and must ensure that they are always looking out for the interests of their constituents. That was the context of this discussion.
Senator, what do you think, and what is your takeaway? Is that an expanded role of a member of parliament, or it's actually a legitimate expectation that they should know?
Well, maybe let me start by saying, you know, we have been talking about state capture of parliament. Yesterday was the clearest indication of that, that indeed parliament has been captured by the executive. Because you can imagine a scenario where members of parliament seated there and they're being lectured by the head of state on what they are supposed to do, how they are supposed to vote, and all that. And one of the things that came up was when he talks about disloyalty in the reference of affordable housing bill, that they need to pass the affordable housing bill. Me and you know very well that the courts have pronounced itself on the issue of housing levy, and that bill went through public participation. And more than 95% of the institution or individuals who appeared before the parliamentary committee rejected the bill.
The current one?
Yes, the affordable housing bill.
But you're arriving at 95%.
Well, what I mean is that majority of the people who appeared before, because I've read the report, appeared before the committee, for Housing in the National Assembly rejected the bill. So what we are asking is, where is the space for public participation? If Parliament can conduct public participation, a decision is made by the public, and they disregard all that, and they go ahead and pass the bill. We had the same scenario for finance bill, and now we are having the same scenario for affordable housing bill. That clearly...
Wait, you think Parliament is going to disregard...
I mean, from what was discussed in the meeting, the directions the Kenya Kwanza MPs were given, they were told to pass the bill as it is. And I am very confident...
That is not the PG I attended.
No. We have...
I think he's misleading.
We were listening to the news yesterday, and that came out, that the bill has to be passed. Even today, if you read the papers, you have even seen the comments by Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Honorable Ichungwa, saying that this bill has to pass. You've seen the comments by the Majority Leader in the Senate, who has said that this bill should come to the Senate, we pass it. I want to say that we are in very interesting times where members of Parliament are not supposed to be objective. They are supposed to follow what the party says. Even if the party says wrong things, you have to pass them. And I want to call upon the three legislators who are seated with me here. Please put the interest of Kenyans first. Because the courts have pronounced itself. They went quickly, came up with a bill. They have gone to public participation. You have heard what Kenyans are saying, but they want to disregard all that and pass the bill. So my question is, where is the space for public participation? And I want us to so we don't even need public participation if that's the case. Number two, I mean, members of Parliament are people who are elected. They have gone through an election. They have been elected to represent the people. And really, when we have a president who calls members of Parliament and starts lecturing them like children or pupils in a class, it is...
You think they were lectured like...
Yeah, yes, we saw it. We saw it. No. And they cannot deny it. They're here. I know they will say contrary things because they are on TV. But some, you know, this is what happened there. And the president, even if you read this paper, Senator, when he was making reference to these hangovers,
are these hangovers,
Senator,
are these hangovers of ODM PG meetings or what? Because it is only those kind of meetings that people are lectured. I think what's talking about...
You see,
and Senator...
Let me read for you what they say.
Before you read, let's listen to what some of the leaders said after that, PG.
We will implement the housing program. I don't want to say by whatever means possible. I have just said we will implement. We will. Because it is what other progressive countries have done.
The executive and the legislature, let us focus on helping the president to succeed. I am persuaded from where I sit that that is the most important thing in the next 2 years.
Perhaps by the end of the month, God willing, we have a new housing bill, affordable housing bill.
Okay, so he's saying that by the end of the month, God willing, we have a new affordable housing bill. That does not mean they'll pass it without any amendments, does it?
Well, if you look at the kind of confidence he's having.
How is he supposed to speak as the leader of majority of the Senate?
You see, the bill will come to the Senate. And by the way, initially, the bill was not supposed to come to the Senate. It's after they realized that housing is a devolved function. And even those projects they are doing them on land owned by counties. Is when they belatedly decided to bring it to the Senate. Senate will go through the bill, and I can tell you, if we feel the bill is not meeting the demands of Kenyans and has unconstitutional aspects, we have a right to reject the bill. And
Okay.
I can tell you, senators will do justice to that bill.
All right. Honorable Kenan, talk to me about, because it appears that we cannot agree on what exactly happened at the meeting, but you were there. What exactly did the president say about loyalty, but also rallying the members of parliament to do a few things that would not appear to be within the mandate of parliamentarians?
Thank you. I think let's appreciate, first of all, I have the privilege of being a member of the Finance and Planning Committee, which dealt with this particular issue, and also having been part of the meeting that took place in Naivasha. I think my friend is trying to use his own creative imaginations to cook stories that were never there. I think I 100% agree with what said by Mr. Ocheng. What the PG and the executive did actually was to review the performance of the MPs who are allied to the president and the members of the executive, and prepare themselves for this new session. It's a reality. I haven't had anywhere. I was there from morning until evening when we left. Anywhere where the president demanded for loyalty. This must be a cooked story that existed in the creative mind of an individual who was just trying to figure out what may have been whispered. So that story did not, I haven't had it at all. Two, the reason why parties fight for a parliamentary majority is to control a parliamentary agenda. If you go to America today, the reason why the Democrats and the Republicans fight for an absolute majority, both in the Congress and the Senate, is to control the government agenda. And Kenya is part of the global world. Kenya is part of the thriving international democracies. And the reason why Baba, and I'm glad that Mr. Osos is here and his team, and I've had the privilege of being also an ODM member, I think the kind of democracy that exists in KK does not exist, or has never existed in ODM. And I know he's a latter-day member because I've welcomed him. I was his national deputy chairman.
I think
that being the case, I think
right of reply on that.
I think we have agreed. Let's debate with a bit of civility.
Just carry on, Honorable Kenan.
So that being the case, there is no harm. What the president did to bring together members of parliament and members of the executive to go through the governance agenda is perfectly in order. It's something that ought to be done every day if there was an opportunity. Because it gives members of parliament an opportunity to familiarize themselves the different activities, developmental activities actually in government which are taking place. And it's true what the Honorable Ocheng said. I didn't know where the offices of, I know when that, the legal framework for...
Set up last parliament, yeah.
Yes, we passed it in the last parliament. It came through a private member's bill.
Yes, Honorable Sakaja that time.
Sakaja that time. I didn't know where their offices were, to be honest. And we were told where their offices were somewhere in Kasarani. That's public information. If anything, that organization should have advertised that this is where they're headquartered. How is that harmful? If anything, it's supportive, it's facilitative.
But I'm just wondering, now that you know, so what do you do with that information?
Just listen to this. Why did we form that particular entity? We formed that particular entity just to galvanize, to harmonize all employment opportunities, and in particular for the youth, and give them an entity that specifically deals with giving them information on employment opportunities, providing facilitation to get in those jobs, and being there. Because right now, you know, there is serious scarcity of jobs. There's a lot of underemployment. There's a lot of unemployment. So the reason Honorable Sakaja actually particularly proud, and I thank him, he thought out of the box. So now that we have that entity, and there are a lot of opportunities. I learned a lot yesterday, to be honest. I learned a lot yesterday, the kind of opportunities that the president and the government negotiated for Kenyans, especially in the Middle East, in Europe, that we're, you know, once that is utilized, like I didn't know that we require close to 2,500 medical
nurses.
I think only nurses, or
in one country, that is.
That's one country. Germany provided a number of opportunities, thousands of opportunities, and many other countries, Poland. So once Kenyans get this, and remember, I don't know whether it's 2010 or 2018, Kenya was declared as the best in human resource capital. And that's what we learned yesterday also. Being the best in human resource capital means we have a highly resilient...
You mean in Africa, right?
In Africa. The best in human resource capital in Africa. Meaning Kenyans are highly resilient, highly educated, and people with very likable character. And that's what has been demonstrated by the Kenyans who are outside there. So the diaspora community, which is a representative of the Kenyan society, has remained our ambassadors to the extent that everybody who has had an opportunity to interact with a Kenyan worker appreciates the performance, the agility of the Kenyan public worker. So that being the case, the fact that we are given that opportunity actually is kudos. But I think there's one thing that my friend associate doesn't understand. What is the role of member of parliament? The role of member of parliament, the moment you seek an elective office, you are everything. You are jack of all trades. Your work is to facilitate, your work is to oversight, your work is to represent, your work is to do budget making. Your work is not just to go to the floor of the house and say, you need to do this. Basically, your work is to be a lobbyist in every aspect, to lobby for your concerns. So seated somewhere, blaming the government for not creating job opportunities, yet you don't have the aura, yet you don't have the courage to go to the field to look for job opportunities for your citizen, is an abuse. So I want to urge my friend here.
But Mheshimiwa Kenan, there's something I'm not getting from you. Now, since yesterday, you know where the National Employment Authority is. How does that improve your work? What are you going to do with that?
You see, the first thing first, that entity has an opportunity to collect all information pertaining to employment opportunities locally, internationally, and everywhere. So what happens is, you go there, you are told there are this number of opportunities in Germany, there are this number of opportunities in UK, this number of opportunities in, whether it's private or public.
As a member of parliament?
Yes, of course. And your work is to relay the same. Take, for example, where I come from. I come from one of...
But that authority has a mandate,
Let me finish this, my friend. Allow me to finish this. My work as a member of parliament, for example, the people of Eldas, how many of them have access to these newspapers? Okay? If any, very few of them go through this unless it's online. My work through my office, and that is why we have constituency offices, is to collect all the information, enabling information from the National Employment Authority, pass the same to my office, pass the same to the locations, the villages, and allow individuals who are interested, who are qualified, to apply. And that is part of my job. If I don't know, if Mr. Honorable Ososi doesn't know that that is part of his job description, then I think it's the wrong field.
I don't have a problem with what you're saying. The challenge is, Honorable Kenan, you see, your mandate is defined in the Constitution. Article 95 talks about the role of the member of the National Assembly.
Yes, what is representation?
Can I raise the question?
Yes,
Can you answer?
Yes.
So, if clearly the Constitution says what you are supposed to be doing, which I think you believe you've been doing, but as of yesterday, you now know where the National Employment Authority is. And it's an authority which has power and responsibilities to the people of Kenya. Is that really your work, or your work is at Parliament and doing what you're supposed to be doing as part of the Constitution?
Let me educate you, my dear brother. Let me educate you on this. I want you to define what is representation. Don't go even anywhere else. What is representation?
The National Assembly represents the people of the constituencies and special interests in the National Assembly.
Just define what is representation.
The National Assembly deliberates on and resolves issues of concern to the people.
Absolutely.
National Assembly.
Issues of concern to the people? Is employment not concern
in
to the people?
National Assembly?
No. The National Assembly is a platform, a debating chamber. That is supposed
and because you resolve the concerns of the people, you pass a law for establishment of the National Employment Authority, which you did.
Let me also educate you on this as also.
And then you oversight it,
as a practicing politician. Also, let me also educate you on this. Look at this. It's two aspects. Members of Parliament are first of all elected from individual. They are elected from particular constituencies, and some are also nominated. When you come to the debating chamber, your first point of contact are your electorates, your voters. You bring the concerns of your voters to the debating chamber. If it is representation, you bring their concerns. Underemployment, unemployment, security, literally everything. If it is legislation, you do the same. If it is budget making, you do the same. Okay? If it is parliamentary diplomacy, you do the same. So my work as a legislator, when I come to the floor of the House, the first thing that I'll ask myself, I have been elected by the people of Eldas. How do I assist them? By being part and parcel of this legislative house, August House. You do it now through, you look for opportunities. How do you look for opportunities? Either from the government, from the public sector, from individuals. That's why I see myself.
Okay.
And maybe I've expanded my horizon of thinking.
That's fine.
Let me give you...
I want to hear from Honorable Lotte first. I'll get back to you because you need to take a short break. But Honorable Lotte, and I understand, it may appear like it's how things work in Kenya, that members of parliament have so much work that has been...
All over the world. Yes.
Let's just be in context. I'm talking about Kenya. Members of parliament have to deal with so much, including paying school fees, to disburse CDF funds and everything. But where do you draw the line in as far as what the Constitution requires of a member of parliament and what the Constitution requires of state agencies? Because even if, to take the case example of National Employment Authority, you now need to know the offices of the Social Health Authority. If you know, so what do you do with that information? I'm talking about where do you separate roles and powers of different institutions?
Well, thank you, Sam, and good morning, Kenyans. I want to appreciate the fact that we're given an opportunity today to be able to dissect some of this information to your country. First of all, to say that it was very healthy for the president to call a cabinet retreat and also the PG, so that the aspects of the party is put into perspective. One thing that I want to say today morning is that this country has come back to the track. People thought we had lost it, but I think we have. If you look at it, last year we had high food prices because there were low production. But I think today we are talking about food prices that have come down. Last year in December, the fuel prices...
No, would you want to go straight to my question?
Okay, let me go back, and then to your question. I think, like Aidan Kainana said about the Member of Parliament, a Member of Parliament represents the constituents. And there are three roles of the Members of Parliament. And one of the roles is to legislate, another one is oversight. If you look at what Members of Parliament do, they do everything, including beyond that, because we are dealing with a population that might not be able to access some of this information. And so when we look at Article 35 of the Constitution, it is very clear about how Kenyans are supposed to access information. Every Kenyan is supposed to have information. And so when the president sit down members yesterday and tell them that this is what is about this country, that there is an employment authority that even members of parliament are supposed to know, it basically tells you that the members of parliament are supposed to know this so that they can be able to tell this to their constituents. Because it is a right within the Constitution that every Kenyan citizen is supposed to have information. And for me, I'll allow the president, because he's opening up a door for the members of parliament to understand that in this country, there is an employment authority that is supposed to employ Kenyans in and out of this country. So, one, clearly, the members of parliament are supposed, because every weekend, we are supposed to be talking to our constituents. So the president, by extension, was telling Kenyans that Article 35 of the Constitution is supposed to be effected. And so, I'll say, members of parliament...
What?
Article 35.
Okay.
Which talks about the right to information. And also Article 232, which talks about the right to accurate information, so that we do not tell Kenyans that there is employment outside this country and yet we do not provide with them this information. So 2 articles were being dealt with yesterday. So today, and I think it is important that Kenyans are watching, that Kenyans are getting to know this information. So the president was opening a Pandora's box for a discussion that will take place the whole of this week. And I'll tell you, today, many Kenyans will go into the Employment Authority website to look for jobs. I think if somebody was there to today dissect and see the kind of traffic that will go into the Employment Authority website, it will tell you and it will attest to you that it was very important for the president to talk about this, because that is what Kenyans require, because that's what the Constitution says, and because that is what is going to transform this employment of this country. So I am...
So
where
do you come in that?
We come in because we are the people that talks to our people, the people that elected us.
There's a website.
The website, of course, the people will go to the website, those who have the capacity. But those who come from the constituency, just like elders, just like all of us here, there are people that will listen to us. They might not get the opportunity to go to the website, but they will listen to us. So for me, I think this discussion is coming up at the right time.
I want to close this part of the conversation. So they will listen to you. What will you be telling them?
We will tell them that there is an employment authority that there are jobs that are being advertised in Germany. There are jobs that are being advertised in the Arab world. There are jobs that are being advertised everywhere in the world, that the president has been able to open up opportunities from across the globe, and that they have the right to apply as any Kenyans. So that's what we'll be telling them. Because for now, if members of parliament, many of them did not even know that there's a National Employment Authority, today that debate has been open. You and me, we are now aware. And so the citizens will be aware.
All right.
Close this, please.
I'm looking at the National Employment Authority website, and they're talking about there are 8,249 employers, 337,000 employees, there are 30,470 job seekers, and there are some 90,832 applicants, and there are 2,101 adverts. I'm just wondering, okay, so if a member of parliament knows that, then what do they do? But anyway, you want
let me just finish that.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were told there were 2,500 jobs that were advertised for the Arab Emirates. Only 1,000 Kenyans applied. That tells you that despite the fact that we've got a lot of unemployment, people were not aware that there were jobs that were advertised. Out of the 1,000 that applied, only 500 qualified, telling you that the information lull was in there. So today, I believe that if you go at the end of this week, you will realize that a lot of Kenyans then will come to apply, because now they have been made to aware that there are jobs that are outside there. I'm sure by the end of this week, we will get more than 3,000 applications, and we're going to fill in the gap that we've been given by the Arab Emirates.
Honorable Ochieng.
You know, Sam, the point about jobs abroad, that is important, that we discussed yesterday, that should not pass without being mentioned, where the role of the MP here is. If, for example, you are giving bursaries to those who are doing courses in the TVETs, we want to focus on areas that will enable these guys to, wherever they are going, they go and get into the jobs. They don't go there and go into school again. And this was also discussed yesterday. The reason the MP is important in this regard, Sam, is one, constituents come to us. And this is, like I said earlier, this is all over the world. You go to an American congressman's office, you'll get CVs. You'll get emails sent to an American congressman about jobs. It's all over the world. People will send you their CVs. People will send you requests for jobs, even if they know you don't have those jobs.
Do you think that system is functional?
Of course, I'm telling you how politics works now.
Yeah, but do you think it's functional in Kenya?
People approach you, and I'm telling them that if I have this information, I can help them. The MP is one of the most important sources of information of the constituency, if you didn't know today, Sam. The MP of Parliament is the most important source of information for their constituents, especially on government interventions. Whether you're in Kenya Kwanza or opposition, you are. And so you should be able to in a position where you can answer those questions when they arise. For example, if a constituent comes to me and says, David, I've seen these jobs adverts for Germany, I should be able to guide that constituent on, one, if I don't have the information, tell him or her where he can get this information. Two, if, for example, a person has done plumbing, we should be able to tell that constituent, for example, that we will require 1, 2, 3 more kind of qualifications for you to be able to take these jobs abroad. Three, we should be able to retool. Part of what a member of parliament's job should be is to enhance the capacity of those he represents to access opportunity, not just abroad, but also locally. This is how this system works.
All right.
Sam,
I want to watch it. Allow me to take a short break. I'll get back to you with the Senator Sotsi here. You're watching Daybreak on this 20th day of February 2024. When we come back, we'll be speaking about the parliamentary oversight role, or is it a facilitation? Stay tuned.